Okay, it's official. Slam Dunk is definitely, 100%, no questions asked, one of my favorite shonen manga series of all time. This final portion of the story has been some of the most fun I have had reading manga, and I cannot believe it's all over. The final arc of this story was full of so many moments that left me speechless, and I honestly couldn't put it down, which is a feeling I haven't experienced in years. I know I spent this first paragraph doing nothing but gush and rave about this series, but I honestly can't help it. After finally finishing the series after what felt like forever, more on that in a bit, I really want to do something different with this section of my series, and I hope you will like what I'm about to say. For the final time in this series, let's talk about Slam Dunk. I know it may seem redundant, but I don't want to spend too much time in this video giving a recap of the story, as I feel it moves at too fast a pace to give you a play-by-play of events. I will talk about some aspects of the matches and discuss what happens, but I won't do my regular summary/review format that I've done for the last few videos on my channel. Rather, I want to talk about some of the insane changes and developments I've noticed, particularly in this final quarter. As I said before, the story moves at such a fast pace that I feel I'd be doing a disservice by discussing everything that happens. If you missed my other videos, please watch those, but in them I do keep saying that Slam Dunk is a series that you need to read if you haven't already. Please read Slam Dunk. It's a fantastic story that left me engaged throughout, and I can't recommend it enough. Now this intro has been extremely long-winded, so let's get into the finale. The last place we left off was our boys at Shohoku making it to the Nationals. They won their match against Ryonan and are moving on to the biggest tournament they've had to face. Urukawa has gone to Anzai and mentioned he plans on going to America soon to play basketball there, and Anzai shoots this down real quick. The quick summary of this, as told by the coach's wife, is that the coach had another student who was a great player, just like Urukawa, and he went through with going to the States. However, once he got there, he ended up being the bottom of the barrel compared to his American counterparts, and ultimately ended up passing away. Anzai does not want this to happen to Urukawa, so he tells him that America isn't the proper move, at least not yet. With that, Urukawa decides to stay in Japan and play with Shohoku further. The next small portion of the story showcases our team going off on a small training camp trip, leaving Kanagawa and heading off to Hiroshima for practice. Everyone except Hanamichi. He has to stay back and practice instead of joining the team for their training camp. While this does upset Hanamichi, he ultimately goes through with the practice drills with Coach Anzai, focusing on his shooting, as that's an area he's been struggling with throughout the series so far. After this training camp ends, we get into the actual Nationals tournament, really kicking into high gear with our first match of the tournament, Shohoku versus Toyotama. This match is intense, with Toyotama specializing in a run and gun method to basketball. They work purely on offense, and their team members all play with an aggression and cohesiveness not yet seen by Shohoku. It's the biggest challenge our Shohoku team has had to face so far, and it isn't an easy match. Urukawa even faces quite the injury this match, with his eye being hit by Toyotama's Minami, who is also known as the Ace Killer. This pure aggression is a lot for our boys to handle. However, they ultimately end up working their own run and gun strategy, matching the aggression of the other team and ending up victorious in the end. Round 1 of the Nationals is in the bag. Now, for the big match, Shohoku versus Sannoh, the defending champions. The team is nervous, but ready to face what will ultimately be the toughest challenge they'll ever have to face. And so, we have this grand match begin. And what a match it is. I need to be honest, I wasn't expecting this match to go on for as long as it did, but man am I glad that it happened. This game between Shohoku and Sannoh lasts multiple volumes, the majority of this arc and final section of the story, and it has shown me some of the best storytelling I have seen in anime or manga, with a lot of it being purely visual. Sannoh is the current defending championship team, and boy does it show. The team consists of nothing but powerhouse players who study their opponent's moves and strategies, and work with those strategies to overcome them. They're calculated as well as quick to act should the situation change itself. Our boys need to think fast and do things differently should they want to beat this team and move on to the next round of the Nationals. Everyone is watching, everyone is cheering, and everyone is nervous. I actually want to use this moment to discuss something I've been pretty quiet about since my first video on Slam Dunk, and that is the artwork. While the artwork did improve with each volume and arc, this match against Sannoh really does show Inoue putting out all the stops and delivering on an art style that, at points, feels like a totally different series. I do need to say, however, that this artwork is absolutely breathtaking at points, with the character designs looking almost realistic in some panels. Inoue has always been able to shift between simple, chibi-esque characters to detailed character designs and action panels, but in this Sannoh match, the action panels move with a fluidity as a reader I was able to clearly understand and admire. The facial designs have shifted too, with the most obvious one I'd like to point out being Rukawa's design. Now, Rukawa was always a character who, while distinct in his look, didn't look as unique as other Shohoku members. His hair was just a bit longer than the average player, but that's about it. Now, there's this boldness to his design, especially around the eyes, almost looking like eyeliner. I've taken a peek at some future Inoue works and their artwork, and Rukawa in his final section feels like Inoue prepping himself for how he'd like to draw Vagabond, something I'd definitely be interested in reading following this story, although I will need a bit of a break from a long series now that I'm done with Slam Dunk. Now that I've chatted about the artwork, I'd like to take a second to chat about the visual storytelling changes that have come up between the previous arcs and this final Nationals arc. Something I didn't really notice throughout the story was Inoue's lack of letting the actions speak for themselves. Earlier in the story, while there were extremely hype moments in the matches with big plays and panels that showcase showstopper moves, there was also a lot of play-by-play from the users in the sidelines as well as the characters in their heads. It's a typical trope in anime, to have what's going on be explained to us, the reader, and other stories do it differently. Slam Dunk using those in the sidelines, as well as the teammates discussing what's happening with the core character at that current moment. However, in this final match, there really isn't a lot of that in comparison. Instead, we get beautiful shots of plays and moments with little to no dialogue, and us as the reader are able to completely understand and get immersed in the match and what's going on. I swear, I really couldn't put this section down, and I flew through the volumes at such a breakneck pace during this part. I needed to stop and admire some of the gorgeous artwork and storytelling at play here, with some entire chapters having few lines of dialogue or less, but you as the reader could totally get what's going on. I don't want to say Inoue didn't do a good job of telling the story before this point, as I've liked and loved Slam Dunk throughout, but I can tell he really came into his own with this last match, and I can only admire him as an author because of it. The only author who was able to do something similar for me was Miura with some of the latest Berserk chapters, so with me comparing Slam Dunk to Berserk, that should be saying something. Okay, I've been gushing about the art and storytelling for a while. Now let's get back into the match for a bit. Our team is quite far behind score-wise, with Sannoh really showing why they're the best in Japan at the moment. Hope looks to be falling more and more as the clock winds down, and some of our team is feeling defeated already. With everything looking bleak, it's up to one person to bring the morale back up, and who else but our boy Hanamichi Sakuragi. If you haven't noticed, I've kept quiet about Hanamichi in this video so far, and that was intentional. Hanamichi as a character is not someone who's special in the way a typical shonen MC is. He's not the chosen one or has some absolutely unique abilities that can alter the course of the world like we're all used to in shonen. He does have something special about him though, and that's his ability to boost team morale and get Shohoku moving forward, no matter how bleak the situation looks. Coach Anzai lets Hanamichi know this, and this lights a fire under him to get everyone back on track. It's a great moment for his character, and I couldn't be happier seeing how much he's grown over time. Where he's still cocky and aggressive, he's also shown tremendous growth throughout the story, making you love him more and more with each match and the chapters surrounding them. He's a fantastic character, and I'm definitely putting him up there with my favorite shonen MCs. Now that the team morale is back, we're closing the gap between Shohoku and Sannoh. We get to what ends up being a both hype as hell and heartbreaking moment for the story. The ball is going off court, and who else but Hanamichi to grab it and throw it back in play, falling into a table and laying there. It's a terrifying moment, but Hanamichi ultimately gets up and continues playing as if nothing's wrong, or so we think. A bit later, he starts moving. Hanamichi notices his back hurts a bit. To this point, it looked like nothing could hurt him, but this is something serious, as Ayako says, and can't be ignored. Hanamichi, being as egotistical as he is, states that he's fine and wants to keep playing, and he pushed through with as much strength as he can. Everyone knows he's not okay, but Shohoku is Shohoku, and they continue playing with a pain-filled Sakuragi. Now for the final moments, and I honestly have no words here. This finale to the match is non-stop action with some incredible plays. I'm going to use this next section to talk about that panel. Before reading Slam Dunk, I knew there was a panel with two characters linking hands, and it was a bit brushed compared to the average manga panel. I didn't know who these characters were, but I knew this was probably some important moment for the series, likely between two rivals who ended up working together in the end, or something on those levels. Now that I know who those two characters are, This is one of my favorite manga panels ever. This is on the level of Aaron's Freedom panel, Guts' Scream at Griffith in the Eclipse, and Nami's Help Me or Robin's I Want to Live panels in One Piece. People like to say that this picture of two basketball players is on the same level as some of the medium's greatest moments, and with the context I now have, I can confidently say that I agree. Hanamichi and Rukawa are two characters who never saw eye to eye, yet they always seem to be the two characters who work together somehow. There was always this I hate you or you're an idiot banter between them, but in the end, they end up pushing each other to try harder and do better. It's in this final portion of the match where you finally see them work together and make great plays between each other. The match ends, that panel happens, and Shohoku has beat Sannoh. It's a beautiful moment, and it was one where I literally ended up raising my own fist and cheer to join the crowd of drawings in my book. Embarrassing as it is, I don't care. I was hyped up. The story of Slam Dunk actually ends on a rather sad note. I was confused as to how the team was going to progress after this, and Inoue actually did something I found quite hilarious. He lets us know that Shohoku got demolished in the very next match because they were too tired following the match with Sannoh, so they didn't become national champions like we all hoped. I was fine with this, however. Slam Dunk isn't a story about being the best or winning. It's about pushing yourself and working with others to achieve a common goal. Shohoku is a team of people who are the best at what they do, and they all believe themselves to be the best. The reality is, a team is the best when they work together, playing on individual strengths to be cohesive and achieve victory as one unit versus a team of individuals. This is shown with Hanamichi and Rukawa at the end, with their working together being the reason they won, not the play of one person. If you ask me, Shohoku won what they needed to. They achieved synergy and beat the best in the country. If that's good enough for them, it sure as hell is good enough for me. The final chapter showcases where everyone is at now, with our main man Hanamichi going through rehab for his back, letting us know he will return to play another game of basketball. After all, he is a phenom. Slam Dunk really is a story that has changed my outlook on things. I know it sounds cheesy, but it is. If these videos didn't convince you enough, I hope that you at least give it a shot, because it is a fantastic story full of great characters, great storytelling, and phenomenal art. I'm not the biggest sports fan, although I do like basketball, but Slam Dunk made me fall in love with what I was reading, and I can only commend it for that. It's a story that has made me stop and think about myself and what I've been doing with my life, how I can improve it, and things I need to change to improve myself as a person. The fact that a manga from the 90s about basketball has made me think this is a testament to the amazing writing by Takahiko Inoue. Please, one last time, read Slam Dunk. I know there's an anime and a new movie, but from what I've seen, the manga is superior. Although I did hear the movie is pretty good, even though it's CGI. If you stayed all the way till the end, I thank you. Please consider liking and subscribing to the channel as it means a lot. I'm going to make more Slam Dunk videos in the future, but for now, I want to make some smaller videos on simpler topics. I've done quite a few review/summary videos back to back, so my next video will be something a little bit different. Stay tuned, and I'll see you all next time.